This is going to be module 6. In module 6 this is lab number 3. The purpose of this lab is to launch, if you read about this is introduction to Amazon EC2. And the objective here is going to be to launch a web server with termination protection enabled, monitor your EC2 instance, modify the security group that your web server is using to allow HTTP access, resize your Amazon EC2 instance to scale, explore EC2 limits, and test termination protection. And finally terminate your EC2 instance. The approximate time for this lab is going to be 35 minutes. I have already started the lab in the page for module 6 related to lab 3. Okay, so I have already started that. This is the AWS console, so I'm already there. So the next thing I need to do is the status of this lab is ready, in other words, so that's why I'm able to start using it. And then the task number 1 is going to be to launch an EC2 instance. Okay, this is going to be in step number 5. So in the AWS management console, I need to go to the EC2 service. So I'm going to go here, even though in this particular case I already have a favorite here. That's why it appears there. But if you don't have it yet, you go to EC2, type in EC2, and then once EC2 is there, if you click on this one to make it turn orange, you will see that there will be a shortcut that will appear in your right here. So you can in your EC2 in your management console, that way it will be easier for you to get there next time. Okay, so I've done that, so I need to start that EC2 the dashboard, the EC2 dashboard. And then the next thing I need to do is I need to make sure that I'm in the Northern Virginia region, which I am. This is also known as US-East-1. Next thing I need to do is I need to go to launch instance. To launch instances, so I'm going to go to choose launch instance, which is going to be this one, launch instance. And then the next thing I need to do is give it a name. This is going to be a tag. Remember, this is a tag. This is just a tag that us humans like to use, names like this. AWS is going to keep track of this by the ID that we use for it, that AWS will assign to it. Okay, and then the next thing I need to do is I need to apply a machine image, and I'm going to select from the quick start. I'm going to select, this is step number 8, by the way. I'm going to select from the quick start, I'm going to select the Amazon Linux AMI, and then step number 9, I need to keep the default AMI that is being selected, which is part of the free tier. Then we know that this AMI really is a template that includes the operating system that is going to be applied to that virtual machine that I'm going to be creating, that EC2 instance. And we know it's going to be Linux, and it may contain some extra applications too. That's the main idea of this. And then the next thing I need to do is I need to select what instance type this I leave as is. Again, the operating system is going to be Amazon Linux 2. Now I need to go to the instance type. This is step number 10, and I'm going to select the instance type. This is step 3, which is select the instance type, step number 10. So what I need to do here is I need to select T2 Micro. That's the one that's selected. Remember, T2 Micro, it has one virtual CPU and 1 GB of RAM. Next thing I need to do is I need to go to the key pair section. In this case, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to select an already created key here. It's called Voki. It's this one. So I'm going to select that one. So that means that the key to be able to authenticate into this EC2 instance, if I SSH into it, will be this Voki key. Okay, the next step I need to do, so this is step 11, by the way, what I'm doing. The next step is going to be go to the network settings. This is step 5, network settings. In the step number 12, item number 12 rather, is going to be, I need to edit the network settings. So I select this one. And then in here I need to select, when it comes to the VPC, remember this is where you're going to be placing your resources. In this particular case, they have already created a VPC for us, and that VPC is going to be called Lab3. We can see that they created this one for us, Lab3. I select it. Next step that I need to do is I need to go to in item number 14, I need to go to firewall settings. Let me see. Lab3. This Lab3 includes 2 subnets. Yes, we can see it has two subnets. Okay, so this is, in this particular case, this is where these subnets, we have subnet 1, which is located in the same region, which is North Virginia. This is US East -1. In this case, the A represents the availability zone, and then V, in this case, B represents the other availability zone. In this case, they're not telling me in which availability zone to place it, so I'm going to place it in A for now. The next thing I need to do is in item number 14, under firewall or security, I need to create a new security group. So create is the option that's selected, and the name of that security group is going to be web server security group. And the description for that is going to be, again, this is just a friendly name that we're giving it, security group for my web server. That's what it is. Okay. And the next step that I need to do is, and remember, the security group acts as a firewall. In this case, I want to allow traffic. It doesn't say, it doesn't tell me to add an extra inbound security group rule. So I'm going to leave it as is, which means I'm going to allow traffic on SSH on this Linux system is going to be port 22 from anywhere. Remember, the source of anywhere is 0.0.0.0/0. That means anywhere. And then pretty much this is SSH for admin, for the administration of this system. Okay, so I can call it like this. The next step I need to do is step 6 is configure storage. So I'm going to skip this area, configure storage. I'm going to skip also advanced configuration. It seems, well, let me see. The order of these, I think it's, well, I'm going to configure the storage on this one. It's going to be an 8 gigabyte. This is general purpose 8 gigabyte SSD drive. Okay. And then in the advanced details, I need to click on this, expand it. And then finally, what I need to do is in the user data section, I'm going to be, well, there is actually step 17. it tells me to enable termination protection. So in other words, if someone by mistake tries to terminate this EC2 instance, it won't work. It won't be able to. It won't terminate it. So termination protection, I should set it to enable, which means it's going to be protected against unintentionally or intentional terminating this EC2 instance. And finally, in the user data, which is the script that runs at whenever this EC2 instance is instantiated, I'm going to type in this script. Pretty much what this script does is, this is a bash script, by the way, that is used in Linux. First step that I'm doing is updating the I'm installing actually the I'm installing the Apache web server. That's what this line does. This is install the Apache web server. This is the package manager. Once you install it, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to enable that service. By enabling the service, what this is going to do is that every time that this machine starts, it's going to run the HTTPD service in the background. Okay, and then the next thing that I'm going to do is, for this particular session that I'm running right now, I will start the that service, so it will be running in the background. And finally, I'm going to be creating a web page that is going to be stored in this location. And what is going to contain that web page is simply going to contain this HTML, this very basic HTML page, which says hello from a web server. This HTML here in between less than and greater than symbols, these are just HTML tags. That's what they're known as. Okay, and this one is for a heading, so it's going to be larger text than usual. And once I've done that, the next step I need to do is I just need to launch my EC2 instance. So here I just go here. So right now this is going to be launching that EC2 instance. If I go to my instances, I should be able to see the one that I'm launching right now. If you remember, anytime that you launch an EC2 instance, it will go into a pending state. And then there are two checks that we need to have this system pass before we can start using it. And then, as you can see here, in this Northern Virginia region, we have another EC2 instance. This is called Bastion Host. This was provided for us by AWS. And as you can see, this is the ID. This ID uniquely identify each one of these systems. This is also a T2 micro. As you can see, this has already passed the two checks. The availability zone where this was created is the same availability zone where I created my EC2 instance. And then let me see if I can find out what the VPC for that EC2 instance is. Well, I should be able to find that if I select this Bastion host, and if I go to networking, I should be able to see what, oh, this is in the work VPC. This is in a completely separate VPC than the one that I have here below. So they are located in different networks, so they shouldn't be able to talk to each other because they're not in the same VPC. There would be a way I could connect from the Bastion host onto this web server, but my traffic would have to go out through the internet and then come back into the AWS region for me to be able to access the web server from the Bastion host. I'm not sure if that's what they're going to ask me to do, but that's the main idea. So I need to wait for these two checks to complete, so I'm going to wait for that. Well, sometimes you need to refresh this and see, no, not yet, so we're going to have to wait a few more moments. Okay, so we're in task 2. We're going to be monitoring the EC2 instance, and we can see that these two status checks have passed for this EC2 instance. So that's fine. The next step that I need to do is it's going to be step number 23. Okay, let me see. Actually, system reachability. Okay. Okay, so in this case, the two tests that that this system passed were the system reachability and the instance reachability. They're the name of these two instances. The two tests that this EC2 instance passed. The system reachability and the instance reachability both have passed. So now what we need to do is we're going to, once we have the web server selected, we're going to go to in step number 23, it says choose the monitoring tab. So I click on this one. And then the next thing I need to do here is, so remember in this case, we're taking a look at monitoring for this EC2 instance. This is part of a service called Amazon CloudWatch, because this gives you metrics regarding the performance of your EC2 instance. So we can see here those. So, and then for any particular graphic, for instance, in this case, CPU utilization, what I can do is click on this and I can enlarge that graph. And you can see, in this case, we don't have enough data. This machine hasn't been running for long enough to display data, but that's the main idea. If you click on these three dots, it will enlarge. If you click on these three dots, you get this pop-up menu, and then you can enlarge the graphic, and you can see the metrics for this particular EC2 instance. Okay, and then in this particular case, we are using the metrics are being gathered every 5 minutes. This is the basic monitoring. If you want monitoring that's going to happen every 1 minute, that's you need to make sure to enable detailed monitoring, but that's going to cost you extra money. Okay, so now in number 24, I need to go to the, once I have this selected, I need to the actions menu, which is here. And then I need to select monitor and troubleshoot, and then get system log. Okay, get system log. So I select this one. So this is going to display the log, that is what is happening in the system. This is from the moment that I created the EC2 instance, there's have been lots of entries that have been entered into the log. Okay, so this is the system log. This is very useful if you need to perform some sort of troubleshooting of the EC2 instance. So now let me exit out of here. So I'm going to go, oh, well, we can see that the HTTP application was installed. HTTP dependency installed. So HTTPD. Okay. So at this point it was installing some dependencies that were going to be needed by the HTTPD web server, Apache web server. Okay, so that's what has happened here. So here we have complete. He has installed all the that service, the Apache web server rather, and all its if there were any dependencies, files that it depended that the Apache web server depends on, they were also installed. Okay, so now I need to go to need to exit out of this, go to this, go back to the instances, and then I select this one. This is going to be step number 27. I need to ensure the web server is selected, yes. And I need to go to actions and monitor and troubleshoot. And then I need to get the instance screenshot. Get instance screenshot. This is that one. So this is a screenshot of the screen at this moment. Okay, so I need to do that. Take this. This shows the EC2 console. Look like if I were able to reach this machine via SSH or RDP, I could capture the screenshot of that instance. Okay, and this is the end of this section. This was this section was task number 2, which is monitor your EC2 instance. And the task number 3 is update the security group and access the web server. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to update the okay, well, the first, let me go back to this one. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that I'm selecting the web server. In this case is this. Step numbers, that was step number 29. Make sure that the details tab was selected. And now I need to get the public IP address of this machine. In this case, it's going to be this one, 54, 152, 55, 248. And now what I'm going to do is I just copy it to the clipboard by clicking this. And next thing I need to do is open a new tab. And next thing I need to do is paste and go. So I'm trying to connect to this EC2 instance. But we see that it's not working. Okay. So we're waiting and waiting, nothing happens. Okay, this site cannot be reached. Even though the web server is running on that EC2 instance, what happens is that the firewall or the security group that we have attached that we attached to that EC2 instance doesn't allow traffic on for HTTP traffic, incoming HTTP traffic coming from the internet. So what I'm going to have to do is I will have to go back. I have to go to the well, in this particular case, in order to modify, so this is going to be step 31. But the one that I just did here was 31. So next thing I need to do is I need to go to security groups in the left navigation pane. So hit the security groups, and then I need to select the security group by the name of web server security group, which in this case it's this one. And I need to select this one because this is the ID of the security group that is attached to that EC2 instance. This hyperlink here is the VPC to which where I place that EC2 instance, as well as the security group. That's where they reside. So I click on this one. Now I need to go to the inbound rules, and then I'm going to have to edit the inbound rules. This is going to be step number 35. Well, 35. 36 is to edit this one. Edit. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new rule. And in this new rule, what I'm going to say is that I want to allow traffic on HTTP. By the way, the easiest way to do that is just type HTTP. And then you get to it very quickly. And then it will select the port for you. You don't need to remember the port. And then we're going to say that we want the traffic to come from anywhere. Okay, so the source is going to originate from anywhere. And it's going to be IPv4. And then after that, I need to give it a name. In this case, I'm just going to call it HTTP inbound traffic. And what I need to do is save the rules. This is step number 36. And then if I go to the tab where, by the way, this machine still has the same IP address as it did before. Let me see. Well, we have to wait for a moment. But pretty much what I wanted to do was this still has the same IP address. 50, if you compare it against the tab over here, it's 54, 152, 55, 248. And what I will do is I will try to refresh it. And now we're getting a reply from the web server. We were able to access the web server because the traffic that I sent from this request was going to come from me being using a computer on the internet and then being able to try to connect to that server by using port 80, which is associated with the HTTP protocol, and I was able to access the server. And the reason was the security firewall, the security group attached to that EC2 instance previously did not allow traffic on port 80. That's why I needed to modify the security group that was attached to this EC2 instance in order to allow traffic on port 80. Okay. And now the next thing I need to do is I need to resize my instance. This is task number 4. Resize your instance type and EBS volume. So I'm going to, in this particular case, because I'm going to change the instance type as well as the EBS volume or the hard drive, if you want to think about it like in terms of your computer. Because I'm going to modify these specifications for this, I'm going to have to shut down the system. So I'm going to go to, in this case, this is going to be, so I'm here at the management console for EC2. Step number 39 is in the instance state, once this is selected, it says that I should stop the instance. Okay, so instance state stop. As you can see, the terminate instance is not available, and this is part of the reason why is that termination protection is enabled. But in this case, I just want to stop the EC2 instance so that I can change its specifications. Okay, so that what I just did was step 40. Step 41, it says that at some point it will display stopped. Once that is the case, what I can do is I will be able to change the specifications of that EC2 instance. Still stopping, stopped. Okay, now I select this one, and now I need to go to actions, and then I'm going to go to instance settings, and then I'm going to go to change the instance type, which is this. We're going to change it from a T2 micro. This is step number 42. We're going to change it to T2 small. T2 small. T2 small, and then this is step 42. I am going to apply those changes. This just changed the instance type. I need to change now the size of the EBS volume. So in order to do that, I need to go to actions. I have this selected. This is the step that I want to work with. So what I need to do is I need to actions, and I need to go to, again, let me see, instance settings. Do I have access to changing the EBS volume? Okay, instance setting, let me see. Change instance type. Okay, so in this case I need to go to actions, modify volume. Okay, actions, modify volume. Okay, I need to find the modify volume. I don't see it here. Let's see. I don't think it's going to be part of networking. I don't think it's going to be part of security. Image and templates, no. Monitor and troubleshoot, no. Okay, so let me find out where the modify volume should be. Okay, so if I go to, well, it should be instance setting, stop, shutdown, or recover instance type, which I just did. Let's see if it's going to allow us to change the volume type. No, down here it doesn't allow us to change it. Anyway, so what I'm going to have to do in this particular case, because I know that this is an EBS volume, I don't see the option of modifying the EBS volume. Stop or recover instance, create a specification, instance placement capacity. It's not in networking. It's not in this one. It's not part of this, and it's not part of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to go to the EBS volumes, and I need to find the EBS volume that is attached to the EC2 instance, to the web server. This, by the way, it ends in 5D6C. 5D6C. So I'm going to go to volumes. It's going to likely be a couple of volumes, and I need to change the one that is attached to the EC2 instance. This is the instance. The one that's attached to the web server is this one. It's the second one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go to actions. And oh yes, sorry. It said here that I needed to go to EBS volume, which is what I'm doing right now. I should have gone to Elastic Volume Store, and then go to volumes. That was step 43, and then the next step was once you selected the volume that you were going to work with, and the reason how I found out what that volume was based on the fact that the instance that it was attached to, I gave it the name of the tag of the name tag was web server. And now, so what I need to do is I just need to, once I select it, I go to actions, and then I go to modify volume, and then I need to change the volume of this to 10. So pretty much by doing this, I had just changed the specifications, the technical specifications of that system. So it's going to have it's going to have a faster CPU. It's probably going to have more RAM, and it's also going to have a larger hard drive. It used to have a hard drive that was 8 gigabytes in size. Now it's going to be 10, as you can see here. Okay, so the next thing, I just have made those changes. Now I need to go back to that EC2 instance, and then I need to go to instances, and then I need to reboot this. I need to start this server again. So I go to instance state, and then I'm going to start this instance. This is a step 51. So it's in stop state. Remember, it just has to it's going to go into pending state, and then after that it's going to go into running state, and then I have to wait for these two tests to pass. So we're going to give it some time in the meantime. Right now we can see that it went from pending to running state, but the two checks haven't passed yet, so we have to wait for those to be completed. Okay, we're back, and the two status checks, checks have passed for that server. Now, remember, this was the previous IP address that the server had. So if I go here and I try to refresh this, We're trying to connect to this IP address. This was the public IP address that was assigned to this server previously. But then I had to stop the server, change the specifications of it, and then start it back. As you can see, it's trying to connect, waiting, and it wasn't able to connect. Now, let's take a look. Let's compare this IP address against the IP address that the public IP address that this EC2 instance has now. It used to be 54.152.55.248. Now, if I select this web server, and then in the details, I should be able to see what the IP address of this server is now. As you can see, the IP address changed. Now it's 34.228.141.241, which is a completely different IP address. What that means is that whenever you shut down and then later start an EC2 instance, the IP address, the public IP address that was originally assigned to it in this particular, the public IP address that was assigned to it was attached to this EC2 instance was this one. Now it has changed to this other value. So if I want to connect to this web server now, what I need to do is just use the new IP address, the new valid public IP address. So in this case, I type in this, and we have the message hello from this, hello world. Okay, that is that step. Now next step, we're going to task number 5. We're going to explore the EC2 limits. And this is that in step number 52, it says in the left navigation pane, choose limits. So we're going to see what limits we have. As you can see, there's a lot of limits that we are getting here. We can ignore these ones. But that's pretty much just to quickly take a look at that. From the list, choose running instances. Let me see, can we select running instances? Running on demand standard. Okay, there it is. It says that the current virtual the current limit is 256 virtual CPUs. That's how many. So it says these. Notice that there are limits on the number and the types of instances that can be run in a region. For example, there is a limit on the number of running on-demand standard instances that you can launch in this region. When launching instances, the request must not cause your usage to exceed the instance limit currently defined in that region. In this case, I have up to 256 virtual CPUs. So that's the main idea. Let me go take a look and see how many virtual CPUs I'm currently using in this Northern Virginia region. Let's wait for this to populate. Dashboard EC2 running EC2 instance. Okay, let's see. So okay. So we're using a T2 small. Yeah, in this case, I just did a search and I found out that the T2, which one did we select? T2 small, it uses one virtual CPU. The T2 micro also uses one virtual CPU. So I'm using one virtual CPU here and one other virtual CPU, so I'm using two virtual CPUs. And then I can use up to 256, so I still would have enough room to grow. Now, the only difference between the well, at least one of the main differences between the T2 micro and the T2 small is that the number of virtual CPUs is not the difference because they both have 1 and 1. But the amount of RAM that you have on the T2 micro is 1 gigabyte, whereas the amount of memory that you have in the T2 small is double the size. Instead of 1 GB is 2 GB of RAM. So that's the difference that we have here. Okay. And then we're now the next step is going to be task number 6. This is going to be to test termination protection. So I select the server that I want to try to terminate. If I go to instance, I'm sorry, to instance state, you see that I cannot access this option here because termination protection is enabled. So now what I'm going to have to do is, yeah, if I try to terminate it, it won't work. Now if I want to change that setting, I need to go, this is step number 57. I select the server that I want to work with, and then I go to actions, instance settings, and then in instance settings I'm going to click on change termination protection. By doing this, I'm changing the termination protection from enabled to disabled. So I'm going to remove the check mark and save it. So now that one has been removed, that restriction. So now if I select the web server and if I want to go to instance state, let me see, why can we see the change happen? So I go to this one, selected, and terminate instance is now available for that server, for the web server. So now if I go to terminate, it will allow me to terminate. You can see that it says that it was successfully terminated, which is what we wanted, and this ends the lab. Okay, so once you end the lab, don't forget to go back to your instructions and click the End Lab button. That will end the lab for you. So I'm just ending it right now in another screen. So right now, if I were to refresh this, well, this is still available, but at some point I won't have access into this. You see that right now it says I just lost access to interacting with this account because it's being terminated. So right now, anything that I try to access, in some cases it's giving me an error, or it says you cannot perform this operation. This is because the environment is in the process of being getting rid of, being terminated, and that's that. Okay.